My name is Ajené Livingston. I work with the Community Foundation here with Karen. I also work at LaSalle for their nonprofit center. I do serve on multiple boards, probably too many. But there is a great need out there, and I feel positioned and poised to help these organizations. So I just want to share briefly with you a little bit of why I feel so positioned and poised to do so. Originally, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised. I come from a very loving family, very supportive family, but I was raised by my maternal grandmother. So I didn't have the guidance of my father or my mother to sort of help me to find my way to life. You know, how to be a human being, how to be a citizen, simple things that we take for granted. I wasn't afforded my parents to help guide me through those challenges of life. So I had a pretty tumultuous upbringing. Of course, in Brooklyn, New York, you are afforded all of the vices that you can imagine, right? They're just really all at your fingertips. But also you are afforded all of the wonders and beauties because the ecosystem is so diverse, right? So I had an opportunity to really grow up early. In the streets of Brooklyn. But one of the things that I lacked was really finding a pathway to education, finding a pathway to being an American citizen, and finding a pathway to basically how I wanted to show up in society. Until my second year in college, I was introduced to a gentleman that made theater right here in Chester County. It was a nonprofit theater company whose mission was to bring the races together through the arts. And I was invited to come play chess. I was invited to study some Shakespeare. Then I was invited to come and drum and dance. I was invited to write some poetry. And the list went on and on and on and on and on till I was able to really find a way to have a voice and to really interact in society. And so through theater, through the arts, it really helped me to find purpose, to really help to deal with a lot of the traumas and a lot of the things that I didn't have a language for in my life, and gave me an opportunity to really become a citizen and find ways to contribute to society and not really live in that underground counterculture place that I was so comfortable. What was the theater? The Coatesville Cultural Society. Founded by Bob Jones, Danny Fruchter, Rayfield Talton, and a few others. And this was in the early 90s. So that was my incubator, right? They were able to really take me in as a young adult, and I was sort of reborn in the theater, if you will, given skills to not only be a good artist, but also, like I said, to deal with life issues, right? And to really find a voice for myself. So I did everything from acting, directing, producing, writing, lighting, set design, set building, fundraising, all of the nuts and or soup to bolts to nuts to soup. Soup to nuts. There you go. Really, I knew it was something in there. Something with
more nuts and bolts.
Oh, nuts and bolts. You know, I sort of get a little of what it takes to run a nonprofit from inside out. any of you who know the founders, Bob Jones, very connected within the Chester County community in terms of culture and arts. He was a drummer, did the chess club in Westchester. I mean, the list goes on. And then, and any of you know Danny Fruchter, who also founded many theaters like People's Light and others, to really be taken under their wing gave me an opportunity to grow as a human being. So I did that. I did the arts. I did everything. And then a funny thing happened. I got older. And my body didn't really respond the way it used to when I was younger. So I couldn't really do the things that I did, stay up late, fixing sets, getting up on the catwalk, doing lights and doing physical type of theater. So I started to use my mind a little bit more and use my body a little bit less, and started to help organizations, theaters mainly, but also other organizations with their capacity building, with their fundraising, with their board development and things of that nature that I learned along the way. And the pandemic hit, and then everybody sat down and joined me in the seat. And I was at the computer a lot more, and it just gave me an opportunity to start developing and honing certain programs and workshops and offerings for these nonprofits. And that's where storytelling came out of, because I was able to bring a lot of my experience from the theater and my experience in nonprofits and sort of find ways to really help and bolster organizations. So I'm here now as a product of what a good nonprofit organization can do in a community, right? Someone that felt lost, someone that was lost, was able to be found within the work of a nonprofit. So that is my story, and I do have many. And I might share some along the way. So your nonprofit story matters, how the board can help tell it. So most of you are board members. I'm curious, does anyone want to share what they thought of? I know that you probably had access to the PowerPoint, but what did you think when you saw this title about Story Matters? Anyone wants to share? Want to be our first brave soul?
I'm on the board for the Downtown Library, and they...
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Kelsey. Hi. I'm the Downtown Library. And I was brought in to diversify the age because, to use language from earlier, we have heavy legacy board, and so they wanted to really kind of bring the age down. But in doing so, the board has had a lot of conversation of what do people say when you ask them why they want to be board members, and that the story is routinely the same. I grew up coming here. I remember, coming to this library and we were in the different building, and it's just been a part, and the story is the same. There's no way that everybody only has that one story. So I'd like to figure out how to pull out the voices that aren't being heard, that have different stories, and make sure that those are heard as well, because somebody else has that different story as well. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. I saw a hand back there. I don't know if it was Kane's hand or someone else's, but somebody.
I will raise my hand. I'm Joe, and I am on the board of the American Helicopter Museum and Education Center in Westchester.
Where is it located?
It's by the Brandywine Airport, right next to QVC.
Thank you.
It's in an old airplane hangar, actually. There's a lot of helicopters in there that you can go inside. And just check it out. So when I saw this, I saw it, I was thinking it would be a way to humanize the board maybe, because a lot of the times when the public thinks of a board of directors, they're just like, oh, it's a bunch of rich old guys hanging out and making decisions. But it's not. They all have a story for why they joined the board and why they care about whatever they're on. So I thought maybe that's what this would be.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm Marilyn from the Fund for Women and Girls, I'm a board member. We engage in both philanthropy and advocacy. We're not direct service providers, so I believe very strongly in the power of story, but just want to be able to better understand how we can tell the stories of individuals whom we are helping through philanthropy and advocacy without, misappropriating their stories, because their stories are a result of the service provider, not necessarily directly to us. So I think there are ways to do it, but I just thought I might get some better understanding of how to do that.
Thank you.
I'm Josephine. I'm with Good Fellowship and Endurance in Westchester. I've been a board member for quite a number of years. Played different roles on the board. So now, when I saw this, first thing came to mind is marketing the organization. How can we project who we are to donors, to the community, to solicit private donations as well as community donations to larger organizations. So that's what my first thought was for that. So hopefully we get some good
Perfect.
tips out of that.
Thank you.
And recruiting new board members.
And recruiting new board members.
Yeah, so I would say, I'm Anne Marie.
Thank
I'm
you.
From, Anne's part in Cooperville. We really consider ourselves a hub of human services, so we have a number of diverse offerings. We have a Code Blue shelter, we also have community meal programs, we actually have space for other nonprofits within our nonprofit. So we really welcome a lot of nonprofits. And, part of, I think some of the challenges we have are that everyone has fundraising, helping to share exactly what we do and what we offer to the community. Often what we see is that people will just kind of get into one area. So like the Code Blue shelter is something that's very easy to talk about. It's very relatable. People understand what that particular need is. When we start talking about being more of a hub of, human services, that's like more abstract and people don't really know what to do with that and how, that impacts the community as a whole. So we have a summer lunch program, we do all of these things. And so it's sometimes a lot to talk about. And so, this to me is important because we need to communicate what the needs are very clearly, because I think a lot of times people think, well, the need can't be that great. And, it's to humanize that aspect of it, to share what we're serving, the people that we're serving, to share what those stories are, to explain what the impact of donations and what we're doing is, and to ensure that we're attracting the right people onto the board and to make sure that all voices are being heard in our community.
Beautiful.
So my first thing is,
Kane, you have to introduce yourself, my friend.
I'm Kane Bender. I'm the board of Uptown Theater in Westchester. And storytelling is very important. I'm a creative person, entrepreneur, so storytelling is me. But it's important for our organization because I think it's important for us to have the same message and for us to create ambassadors that will then take what we say and tell other people. I think it's important. And we have to make sure it's specific in what we're trying to accomplish. So we have volunteers, and they need to be able to tell people when they come in to the theater who we are, what we're doing. We have fundraisers that need to communicate who we are and what we're doing and what we offer beyond theater programs, but we're an economic driver for Westchester. So again, storytelling, if it's the same, then we can build on that story for specific fundraiser, for grant writing, for getting more volunteers, and for increasing the number of patrons that come in.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'll take two more. I'll split the room. I'll split it in half. We have 4 hands. I'll take 2 more. John.
So the first thing, I'm John, I'm from the YMCA. And storytelling, has anybody heard, what's your elevator speech? So in 30 seconds, John, tell me why the Y is so cool, why you like it, why I should get involved. 30 seconds. What's your elevator speech?
Okay.
Well, when I saw it, my whole career has been within sales, so it's always, having a story for that transaction. I need you to buy what I'm trying to sell. So when I saw it, I thought this was a great time to figure out how to tell that story to get people on a board on a nonprofit where you're not selling, really selling anything. It's not transactional, but you want them to understand your organization. You want them to buy into your organization, offer their time, their services, their funding, to the organization. So to definitely see how that story gets changed when it's not necessarily a dollar exchange for goods or services.
Is there a reason why you left your name for
Oh,
last?
I forgot.
I didn't know if that was a sales tactic or something.
Definitely not.
Okay.
But I knew I was the last one to get the message out. So now I'm Danielle Ruttman. I am a new board member to the Fund for Women and Girls.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so let's get in. This is an overview, right? It's a high-level overview of how to share an organization's compelling narrative for effective storytelling to attract partners and engage stakeholders' support for your org's mission. As board members, you can use this tool to effectively convey the organization's mission and impact. The reason why I wanted to hear a little bit from you, because for me, as an artist and as a theater professional, it's important to know my audience because I'm speaking to you. So the importance, what I've able to really understand about storytelling is that the story is really in the ear. Sometimes it's in the eye. Sometimes it's in the feelings. But it's all in the listener, right? So the story needs to be conveyed to you. If you don't get the story, it doesn't exist, okay? So you have to know where your story is going to land. So we are going to provide an overview of how to effectively share your organization's story to attract and retain potential funders and partners, and to engage and expand stakeholders' support of your mission, right? So I feel like we're on the same page here, right? So we're gonna go through this and try to see what we can get. So let's look at them. So why storytelling matters, the board member's role in storytelling, 4 elements of an effective nonprofit story, using data to strengthen your story, marketing to potential funders, marketing to partners and stakeholders, creating a consistent message across all channels, building a personal connection with your story, leveraging storytelling for different audiences, and a call to action for the board members. And these are actually in buckets. So these 2 is sort of like the intro. These 2 will get into a little bit of the meat of a story. These 3 will look at it from a marketing perspective. And then the last 3 will come back to the lens of a board member. All right, just to help to frame your mind a little bit. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Why does storytelling matter? Let's hear from someone who we haven't heard from yet. Why does storytelling matter? Yes.
Because it makes a connection.
Makes a connection.
It makes people do things.
Right, it inspires people. Calls people, informs.
Probably draws a picture.
Draws a picture. Talking my language. Yes.
Brings in like people with like ideas.
Brings in like people with like ideas to support and do things, make things happen. All right. Connects emotionally with audience, right? Storytelling, and I'm going to use a lot of the words that I've heard, I'm going to try to, humanizes a nonprofit's mission, right? It makes it personal. It makes it, it takes it out of something and makes it a little bit more tangible. And it connects with an audience in an emotional way, right? So I covered my mic. So certain stories, we want to pull on those heartstrings. Certain stories we want to inspire. Certain stories we want to make people use it as a call to action. So it connects emotionally with audiences. It demonstrates the nonprofit's impact. So it goes beyond numbers, and touches the hearts and minds and fleshing out the nuances of what the organization's mission is that the facts alone can't capture. Okay? So we have the bones or the structure of the organization, and you're able to paint a picture and sort of round off the edges and connect the fibers and put in some tendons to make it an actual body. And that's what the storytelling will do. Builds trust and authenticity. Something that we used to say was, you got to keep it real. People don't just want a fantasy, they want something that is actually real, especially when you're dealing with people with real issues, right? If I'm worried about food on my table, I really don't want to hear anything about the whales, unless you're going to cook it. So, compelling narratives builds trust and inspires action by differentiating your org's authentic footprint with a true, personal, and well-articulated story. Yes?
I might suggest too, it also strengthens the ability of a board member. It increases their strength and their effectiveness. So when they're comfortable that they have a story to tell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are going to touch on that a little bit. Thank you for bringing that up. All right. So that's why storytelling matters, right? It connects, it demonstrates, and it builds. Anything else? Beautiful. Now, there's a quote.
I'm so sorry, I do have one of those.
Yes, I felt you there. I wasn't going to
That people don't remember facts and figures, but they remember a story. And so, I that's one of the reasons why I love storytelling, because I think it connects, it demonstrates, and it builds that trust and I think just memory.
It's memories, yeah. The quote, I don't remember who it's from, but it says that people don't give to causes, they give to people with causes. Okay? All right. The board member's role in storytelling. What is your role in storytelling? Let's see. All right. Board members can expand the nonprofit's reach by leveraging networks through advocating and connecting through stories. Okay? So, you are ambassadors of your organization. Your unique perspective and passion makes the mission more relatable. I can access it through you, especially if I'm new to the organization. I can access it through your experience, through your eyes, through why you have chosen to be a part of that organization. So, as a board member, you all must know what brought you to the org. Why are you a board member? You should know that. That should be a part of your 30-second elevator speech. You should probably even start with that, right? I started with what brought me to nonprofits because it's my story. It's the real story. It's tangible. I can talk about it in many different ways. I don't need to write it down. It's my life. So what brought you to the organization, right? So just take 5 seconds and identify what brought you to the organization that you're a board member of. Advocates for the mission. So you have to be able to effectively articulate the mission. We come from an era where a lot of board members didn't even know their mission. So we were a little bit surprised when Zeb just said it as a part of his speech, because that's where we need to head to. You need to know your organization's mission, and you need to be able to articulate it eloquently. So effectively articulate the mission, effectively articulate the vision, be able to articulate the goals, the impact all through personal stories if you can, but also examples and clear messaging. This will give you an opportunity to really have a handle of what is the organization's secret sauce. What makes your organization unique? And you know that because you know the mission, you know the values, you know what the organization stands for. So you don't need to know it verbatim, but you should have at least a sense of what it is. Okay? So with that, you can be an advocate for it because you have to be able to articulate it and be able to speak on it. Connectors to the community. This is really the whole point. This is the whole point, actually, of this whole hour, this whole PowerPoint, is to really connect you to the community. So we're going to take some time on that, but this is the pivoting point right here. So where, all right, I think I had these in why, I forget, who, why, I had it, you know. But where does your organization land in the community? You have to know this. You have to understand where can we see the impact of your organization within the community. You have to be able to point to that, okay? So how does your organization resonate among community members? Where's your impact? How do you resonate? Highlight the organization's value in the community. And you can use storytelling to effectively do what I think are our board members' most important role, which is, I'm gonna list them out: build bridges, foster relationships, increase visibility, influence public opinion, garner support, shape policy, depending upon the org, but essentially to engage the broader community and ultimately expand the nonprofit's reach and influence. So I couldn't put all of these in a PowerPoint because it would have been too much. And like I said, for each one of these slides, I can spend a good 45 minutes unpacking with you. So this is a gloss, right? A high level, just sort of like let some of this sink in. But as board members, you want to be ambassadors, you want to be advocators, and ultimately all of that is so that you can connect your organization to the community. And I use community broadly, not only constituents, not only other organizations, but also funders as well, okay? Something that you made me think of when you said it helps the board member, a lot of people look to board members as the ones that actually embody that organization. And you are somewhat gatekeepers because not only should you be aware of the programming, you should also be, I don't know which class you took first, but there's fiduciary responsibilities. There's, so you really are the ones that sort of see outside of the staff, see the whole picture of the organization, right? Of what it does and how it gets there. So it's important. It's important that you know these things. All right. 4 elements of an effective nonprofit story. So I sort of gave us these 4 corners or buckets, if you will. And this visual is sort of a storytelling framework, right? We start with character. That little fellow down there. The challenge. My wheels are turning. The solution. That's that light bulb right there. And finally, the impact. Okay, all of those should be incorporated in your story. So character, who is impacted? Every great story has a central character, right? Somebody who you think of, right? You know the story, you know the movie, you know the film, you know the book, but you think of the character and the journey that they went through. So in every great story, there's a central character who is directly impacted. And in terms of nonprofit, they're directly impacted by what your nonprofit seeks to address. So characters can be individuals, can be communities, can be ecosystems. Whoever your organization serves, that is your character. And by putting it in a character, it helps to personify to everyone why your work is so crucial. Okay? So identify in your organization who is your character. The challenge. What is the problem that your nonprofit is solving, right? The challenge represents the problem or the barrier that your nonprofit aims to address, and it describes the urgency and the scope of the work and of the issues, and it sets up the need for your organization's work. So if you're able to talk about the challenge, then you're able to talk about the need. The solution. Solution is where you explain your program's services. This is where you can talk about the programs. You can talk about how it's a intervening force in the community and how it directly responds to the challenge listed above. And you can show how your solutions are unique and innovative and effective. And then that leads us into the fourth one, which is the impact. And this is where you're showing the difference that has been made, right? This is the result of your intervention. This is the tangible and measurable effects of your nonprofit's work. And this demonstrates the positive change that has occurred because of your organization, because of its solutions, and it solidifies credibility and the effectiveness of the organization. Okay? So you should be able to go through all four of these quadrants for your organization to help you craft your nonprofit story. And so typically we would take a workshop and sort of help, to mind some of this stuff for you, and so that you can really clearly identify these four quadrants. Right now we're just talking about them. Any questions on that before I put you to sleep? All right, cool. Keep it going. Using data. Using data. Why is data important? Data. Important. Paints the picture. That's exactly right. See all that there? It's hard to read, isn't it? But you can see a house, you can see a heart, you can see a fork. And we all have associations with these images. So what the data does is the data gives us an opportunity to show the impact a little bit in a different way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about quantitative and qualitative, and I think it's the next slide. So a compelling and credible narrative combines, this slide, quantitative and qualitative data, balancing emotional appeal with factual data, right? So we want to use both metrics. We want to have personal testimonials that are persuasive, but we also want to have the hard facts as well, okay? We want that story of the nuances and that soft and that gushy stuff, but we also want that hard numbers, all right? And the ability to bring both is going to make it an effective story. So combine quantitative and qualitative. We want to show impact through stats and testimonials, right? This blend allows you to appeal to both the hearts and the mind, showing both the human side and the tangible impact. Testimonials engage the emotions, and data proves the effectiveness. So visual aids, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. So visualizing data by presenting images, infographics, charts, visual storytelling, bar charts showing a year-over-year growth, a pie chart breaking down where donors' funds are allocated. Yeah. So it's hard sometimes to keep all of this stuff in your head. We're going to, hopefully when we close, we're going to talk a little bit about what your call to action is and creating a checklist. And so those are one of the things that you want to have in your checklist. You want to have a visual that if somebody asks you a question, you can say, I can demonstrate it to you in this way with this pie chart. I can paint this picture for you. So you do want to keep in mind that the key performance metrics like donor growth and service impact and budget allocation are essential for board members to know. Just more information. So these next 3 slides are going to look at things from a marketing standpoint. So we're going to start with marketing to funders first. Okay. So I have a marketing approach that is funder-centered and strategy-focused, right? So we start with the nonprofit first. We then understand the funder's priorities, we align the stories, and then we build the relationships. Nonprofit, funders, stories, relationships. So before approaching funders, it's essential to understand their specific priorities, values, and missions, right? Not all funders are the same. This one-size-fit-all approach does not work. I know we try to streamline because as nonprofits, we're low on resources, so we have one person doing a million things. But the rinse and repeat, one-size-fit-all approach is not effective. Customization is key. So you want to research your funders and you want to identify synergy between the funder and your organization. Okay, so understand your funders. It's one thing to know the organization, it's best to also know your funder. Now, you don't have to change your story. What you want to do is you want to emphasize what resonates most with the funder's interest. So you want to tailor the story and you want to connect and you want to highlight shared values. For those of us that had the beautiful experience of applying for a job, this is your cover letter, right? You have a cover letter that sort of bridges your skills with what they're looking for in an employee. And you're able to sort of say, this is why you want me. This is why you need me. This is why you have to have me. And here's my resume. So you have to know your funder in order to be able to do so. So align with their mission and tailor it. Fundraising is not transactional. Did anybody take the fundraising? Yeah, right. So I'm sure that they talked about it. It is relationship based, and it's really building trust and cultivating an ongoing relationship with funders, maintaining the open lines of communication, demonstrating your impact to the organization, and providing consistent updates on your organization's progress. So you don't just talk to your funder when you want money. You have an ongoing relationship with your funder like they're your friends, okay? And you don't leave it up to them to come to you. You have to be proactive. And you be proactive with your story, with the data, and with the metrics, and you tell them what's going on. Some of us do it by just, sending out newsletters, sending out email blasts, but also that phone call, that touch-in. And this is for transparency, for accountability. You also want to definitely want to invite them to any and all events that you have. Okay, marketing to partners and stakeholders. An effective partnership marketing is not just about what your nonprofit needs, of course. It's about the impact of the collaboration, right? What helps both parties, what achieves both goals, and focusing on those shared values and those mutual benefits for both organizations, right? You have to identify the common goals. You have to leverage each other's strengths. You have to possibly fill in each other's, I have to say this politically correct, learning opportunities, right? And really focus on the what's in it for them factor, okay? And you know, we all know how important it is to be able to really point to a good collaboration, right? Are you a team player, right? Does my dollar have more impact because not only does it affect this organization, it affects the other organizations in the ecosystem. You have to be able to articulate how the previous collaborations have resulted in positive outcomes for both parties, building credibility and showing that your nonprofit is a trusted partner. Showcase previous success stories and demonstrate value creation. And when we talk about value creation, did the organization increase their constituency, their mailing lists? Did they get more visibility? Did they get more press release? Were they able to raise additional funds because of the collaboration? All of this makes your organization look better as a collaborator, as a partner. So marketing to partners, highlight collaborations. And then third, just like fundraising, the partnership should not be a one-off transaction. You want to nurture and cultivate these relationships over time and create an environment where collaboration becomes a long-term partnership and commitment through the stories that are being told about how these collaborations have worked. Okay, so it should be a part of your narrative. Not only the impact in terms of among the people that you serve, but your impact among how you affect and work with other organizations should be a part of your narrative. None of us are in a silo, right? We all are in, and a lot of times serving multiple organizations or serving the same communities and overlapping work. You should talk about how you are creating a fabric and a net for the community by working with these other organizations. It's very attractive to funders. So you have to be able to say that and have that pitch to your partner organization, right? Let's walk side by side. Let's apply for this grant together, right? Let's walk side by side. Let's address this need together. And third in this bucket of marketing is creating a consistent message across all channels. We have until 12:30, right? I'm gonna have to fly. All right. So I thought I was talking too much already. Now you're really gonna hear me talking. All right. So we want to remain consistent across all platforms, all social media, websites, newsletters. All of that stuff. We want to, I have a whole list here. But consistent messaging builds brand credibility. Consistent messaging builds brand credibility. So you have to be able to also adapt, and this is for our younger, more savvy, but you have to be able to adapt to fit each medium. So, not only do we have the short form for social media and long form content for website and newsletters and formal storytelling for presentations, even within social media, there's different formatting and platforms for Instagram than it is for LinkedIn, right? So you have to be able to draft your story and graft it in a way that it works best in each of those platforms. And for different audiences. And also for different purposes. Because if you're talking to a funder, it's different than if you're talking to a partner organization. which is different than if you're talking to the community that you serve. And sometimes there is some overlap. Okay, so empower your board because they are the natural ambassadors to share these key messages and to align with the organization's core narratives. So the core narrative will always remain the same, and it's good if, as a board, you have a toolkit that really helps you. Well, it helps me as a board member that I can just cut and paste some things and maybe add a little something in there, right? A little quick fix for either if I'm sending off an email, if I'm posting something online, I already have that language and that messaging, even if it's something that I'm very familiar with, that I can take it and I don't have to reinvent the wheel. All I have to do is just customize it for where it's going. All right, next. Now, back to the lens of the board member. So you want to build your personal connection, and we're just going to review some of this here. But once again, this is where we are humanizing all of that we talked about, right? Taking the stories, taking the data, and we're making it personal. Personal to the board member, but even more so personal to whom you're speaking to, okay? So you have to take the authentic, be the authentic access for the organization and for its mission. So share your passion, right? Why are you there? What drives you? What's your personal connection? And make that resonate with the funders and the stakeholders, right? Highlight the why and use that to inspire others. And then third, I know we talked about the pitch, and you know there's some debate about a pitch, right? It's really, my understanding of a pitch is, it's really, you want to just have an opportunity to really think about this beforehand, right? You want to be able to be quick on your feet. So we're all different people and we all relate to things different ways, and our minds are different. For me, I might need to write things down. Some people might just need some bullets. Some people might just need some high-level overview of what it is, or some concepts, or some pictures, or maybe a story. But figure out what it is and have it in your back pocket, okay? Figure out what it is and have it in your back pocket. So, and you should practice tailoring that based on the framework, right? You got to be able to read the room and see who's there and talk to who's there for why they're there, right? Make your organization the reason why that conversation is happening. Make them feel like, this is why I came here tonight. Oh, this was meant to be. I'm really happy to meet you. That's a very different feeling than walking away with, boy, that was a waste of my time, right? So yeah, I can go on and on. We were just talking about this last night. So, leveraging your storytelling. So, you want to build that personal connection. Then you want to leverage your storytelling to different audiences. You know, what's the vibe of the room? What's the event that I'm at? Why are people there? And then you're able to really hone in. Is this a potential partner that I'm talking to? Is this a potential funder that I'm talking to? Is this a potential volunteer that I'm talking to? And speak to that. Clear is kind. You want to be clear as possible. So less is more, okay? So don't be all wordy like I am. You want to be real short and precise and to the point. Don't confuse people. Keep your core story strong and consistent throughout. Thank you very much. All right, so tailor your story for different audiences, use varying tones, and ensure that the core message remains clear and consistent. All right, call to action. If I don't put something on my calendar, I'm going to remember it after the fact. If I don't have, things that I want to do written out more than it's going to be by chance if it gets done. Okay? So being able to tell this story and actively telling the story is something that you need to actually put effort into and commit to doing. So there's the work of creating the story. There's the work of going through what makes a good story, drafting a story, developing your elevator pitch. But if you do not have the events that you go to tell the story, if you're not actively talking to funders and potential funders or potential partners, what's the point, right? So for me, this call to action is important, right? You have to commit to these things. You have to say, I'm going to actively share, I'm going to leverage my connections, and I'm going to regularly update so that my story isn't stale and old from last year. I want to first ask, is there anything that you would like to hear that I didn't cover? Good. Is there anything that I mentioned that you want to hear just a little bit more about? Or maybe a reference or something too? Even better. Darn it, I thought I was off the hook.
Seconds from how long should the story be?
How long should the story be? As short as possible. The story should be as short as possible. So that's why they have the 2-minute pitch or the 30-second elevator speech. You really don't want to, I was thinking, you don't want to waste anyone's time. You want to really be short and precise and to the point. And it's really more so about listening. It's more so about listening because you want to know what is motivating that person. And you want to be able to speak directly to that in as short and concise of a time as possible. So be short and concise. So that's my rule. That's my rule of thumb.
They start asking questions, and then you can start.
Well, conversation. Conversation. If you're able to have a conversation, then you're able to, be quick on your feet. You're able to pull the research that you've done already. Not everything is going to be applicable at the time, but to be able to pull what is applicable is the best way.
So advertisers do 15-second, 30-second commercials.
Yep.
So I've always tried to do it within that time frame, 15 seconds. And it's exactly what you just said, listen. You're going to hear a response back from them. And then based on their response, shows you what their interests are, and then you can engage in that. So that you're not trying to create what's interested in you, it's what is interested in the person that you're talking to.
The best story is an answer to someone's question. Yes.
After a lifetime of being a CMO, director of marketing, biz dev, sales, it is always the objective. If you're trying to make a sale, the best thing you can do is have the person tell you what their need is. They don't want to hear all about you. They want to tell you what their need is. If you're not connecting their need with what you're selling, then you don't have a sale.
You don't have a sell. That's right.
And it's the same way I feel in the world of nonprofit and asking people for money and donation of time or dollars, that if it's not simpatico with what their vision is for what they're supporting, then you don't get their support. So that telling of that story needs to hit that emotional button regardless of what your story is. It needs to be getting them to want to take action and say, that's exactly what.
You're right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Exactly.
Board members' role in storytelling can significantly impact the nonprofit's growth. Thank you for your time and your commitment. Enjoy the rest of your day.